A very good morning, everyone. Esteemed guests, faculty colleagues, students, scholars, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to each one of you to this distinguished lecture series organized as part of our Golden Jubilee celebration of the University of Hyderabad and the Silver Jubilee celebration of the School of Management Studies. I now request the dignitaries, Vice Chancellor Professor B.J. Rao, distinguished guest Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy Garu, the Dean School of Management Studies, Professor Mary Jessica, and the coordinator of this lecture series, Professor Irala Lokanand Reddy, to please take your seat onto the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause. Thank you, sir and ma'am. I request now the Dean of School of Management Studies, Professor Mary Jessica, to welcome the Vice Chancellor, Professor B.J. Rao, with a bouquet. I now request the Vice Chancellor, Professor Rao, to now welcome our distinguished speaker, Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy Garu. Today indeed is a special day as we continue our commitment to academic excellence and scholarly discourse. As we have with us Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy Garu, founder, chairman, and board member of Cyient, who will be sharing his views on the role of technology in driving India's economic growth and sustainability. This is the second lecture organized under the banner of the distinguished Golden Lecture series. The inaugural lecture was delivered by Professor Bhim Rai Maitri, Director of IIM Nagpur, on the 5th of this month. Without further ado, now I invite the Dean, School of Management Studies, Professor Mary Jessica, to deliver the welcome address. Madam, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Poonam. Good morning to all of you. Professor B.J. Rao Garu, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Hyderabad. Padma Shri Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy Garu, Founder, Chairman, and Board Member, Cyient, the Chief Guest for the day, and also today's distinguished speaker, Professor Irala Lokanand Reddy, the coordinator of the distinguished lecture series, which are commemorating the Golden Jubilee of the University of Hyderabad and the Silver Jubilee of the School of Management Studies, University of Hyderabad. Before I say anything, when I came to the university, it was the school was 1.5 years old. I felt I joined yesterday. So, the time has passed on so quickly and we have moved on so quickly. We started off with 30 students in our MBA program and 2 PhD scholars. Today we stand quite crowded, if not tall, with around 200 students covering the 4 MBA courses and around 100 students at any point in time in our PhD. Having said that, I deem it a privilege to welcome you all, sirs, on the days, the dignitaries of the days, to this series. When we think about the topic of the lecture, that is technology and sustainability, it sends me down the memory lane when I learned about the invention of the steam engine and the Gutenberg's printing press. I mean, these were the inventions which triggered off the Industrial Revolution, and they had both the good impact. We are still reaping the benefits of those inventions, yet there was the sorrowful side of it, wherein the human aspect was totally ignored. We had very long working hours, and the laborer's life was miserable. Today we stand at a point in time where we want to use technology not only for further growth, further economic growth, but we are also looking at how we can use this technology towards sustainability. So today we should say that we are more mature, more balanced, and the topic wouldn't have been better delivered than by Professor Reddy Garu. Let me tell you that we are talking so much about NEP 2020 today, and Professor Reddy Garu has been at the helm of it. So what we want to implement, he was one of the proponents of it. Can we give a loud applause to sirs on behalf of the faculty, staff, students, research scholars, and on behalf of the school, and on my own behalf, I extend a warm welcome to all of you. Wishing you a great time. Jessica, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It is now my privilege to introduce the Vice Chancellor of the University of Hyderabad, the head of the family, Professor B.J. Rao, to this august gathering. Professor B.J. Rao served as Senior Professor, Chair of Biology, Dean Faculty at the Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, Tirupati. He was associated with Biology Department at Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Mumbai, for about 25 years and served as Senior Professor and Chair of Biology Program before moving to IISER Tirupati in 2018. He's a National Science Talent Awardee, first in AP, 16th rank in India, received his PhD from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and worked as research scientist at Yale University of Medical School before joining TIFR, Mumbai. Professor Rao is a fellow of 3 National Academics of India. He is also the Sir J.C. Bose Awardee from the Department of Science and Technology. He has made fundamental contributions in the area of genome biology and cellular regulations and adaptations, where he published more than 160 reviewed international publications with high citations and impact. He has chaired and been a member of several national and international committees on various policy matters related to science, technology, and education. He has contributed significantly as the chief editor of Journal of Biosciences, a flagship journal of Indian Academy of Sciences and Springer Nature combined. Thank you so much, sir, for your constant support and motivation, and I now invite the respected Vice Chancellor to deliver his address.
Good morning to all of you. A special welcome and an applaud to Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy Garu for being part of this celebration in University of Hyderabad today morning. And I also want to thank Irala Garu, Jessica Garu for taking this very interesting and very relevant initiative to start distinguished lecture series and choose a topic which is so topical, so contemporary for today's times. So I am sure all of you are looking forward to hearing from Dr. Reddy Garu. The topic of today's conference must tickle all of us, because we all want to grow up in a GDP-centric growth model obvious necessity for all of us, and use the tools which are very, very contemporary, which have also become a success in this model of growth, namely technology. Technology not in a very simple sense, but technology that can be scaled up easily. So therefore, this is a challenge for all of us sitting here. It requires 2 or 3 very important checkpoints that all of us have to check in these boxes. One is very good quality education, the very important checkpoint in the very beginning itself, and distill that education into skills. Every education is not a skill. Distill that into skills that you can deliver, and that perhaps will drive the technology at scale. So these are all different requirements. Whatever one is doing in one's professional academic life, our activities must feed into not only our own growth, but systems growth. And it is now possible to do that because of multidisciplinarity of learning processes. Any stream of knowledge, literally any stream of knowledge, can funnel into country's growth and therefore global growth. So earlier times when we were going through education, the focus was on knowledge. We were not exposed to skill and translatability into technology prowess, etc., etc. Our focus was essentially get the knowledge, deep knowledge, not peripheral knowledge. That was kind of pre-independent and soon after independent education. But now currently it is not just the knowledge, but the skills out of it. This is so important in university ecosystem. We are not doing the transition very well even now. We are teaching content, sometimes maybe very, very well, but the context of that content is not explicitly stated to our students even now, which I think is a major deficit. We must immediately contextualize whatever we are learning. Then you will see that opportunities open up as to how you can engage with the society at large using what you have learned. Contextualization is the beginning of application of knowledge. That contextualization has to be done very well in any educational ecosystem. Whoever does that well will be a winner. Contextualization can happen in any stream of knowledge. Now, we have gone through many transitions in this societal existence. Electricity, and then macro electronics, and then microelectronics, followed by semiconductor chips. And now we are at a stage where microelectronics can be used into generating artificial world. You can essentially simulate any part of human activity into an artificial world. So you can actually go beyond yourself. You can create gadgets that can essentially control you, get controlled by you, do many, many, many things. So that actually is a zenith of our technology right now. But remember, when you use all these artificial tools, this is the challenge now. Remember, all the artificial tools will do everything that you want. But the primary tool is the natural intelligence. We should invent a hybrid world where natural intelligence and artificial intelligence synergize with each other. This is the challenge. The society is facing this challenge now. All of us are part of that challenge. Do not excessively depend on artificial models, but certainly use them. Use them to the hilt. But your primary source is still the natural knowledge. So I'm not going to really expand all these things. I'm sure BVR Mohan Reddy Garu will give you real world examples and take us through how technology is the driver for growth. One challenge obviously becomes much more relevant and real now. When you push GDP-centric growth through technology, there is a obvious impact on societal ecological system. Every GDP-centric growth activity has a eco-centric impact which is generally somewhat damaging. Now, that has given rise to the challenge of leading to SDGs. So any growth model that we use or implicate, follow or simulate must also have a built-in mechanism to sustain the growth without creating unusual, lasting, deleterious impact on the ecosystem. So this challenge also is a real challenge globally, particular challenge for countries like India, which require GDP, but which should be able to sustain this. So it has become a real hybrid model of growth: natural intelligence, artificial intelligence, and SDG. If you can combine these three, tweak them according to your needs, balance them, I think you will have a growth trajectory which is happiness-centric. And all of us must be directed towards that. So this is an idea session. So how do you combine these three is a real idea session for all of us. So I would want to again welcome our chief guest for sparing time and hopefully give us enough tricks of the trade so that we can implement these tricks and grow personally as well as at the societal level. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your learnings, experiences, and also your expectations. Ladies and gentlemen, it is both an honor and a privilege to introduce our distinguished speaker for today. Someone whose name resounds with excellence, leadership, and innovation. Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy Garu is a visionary who firmly placed India on the global engineering, research, and development service map by establishing Cyient, formerly known as Infotech Enterprises, in 1991. Cyient is a global digital engineering and technology solution company. It collaborates with customers to design digital enterprises, build intelligent products and platforms, and solve sustainability challenges. In 1997, he listed the company in NSE and BSE, and in 2023, he listed Cyient DLM, the electronics manufacturing division, in NSE and BSE. As founder, he went on to create the Engineered in India brand, and by October 2023, led Cyient to contribute $7.7 billion in cumulative export from India to several global clients, including Fortune 100 companies. As on October 2023, the Cyient Group is valued around $3 billion in public markets. Dr. Reddy took several leadership positions to promote higher education in the country. He is currently the chairman of the Board of Governors of IIT Hyderabad and IIT Roorkee, and is a member of the Leadership Advisory Board at the University of Michigan College of Engineering, USA, and a member of the Court of Governors of ASCII. Dr. Reddy served as the chairman NASSCOM during 2015 to 16. He served as chairman of CII Southern Region 2008 to 2009 and is the chairman of CII Educational Council from 2020 to 23. Dr. Reddy is the founding director of T-Hub, the largest startup incubation center in the country. Dr. Reddy received India's fourth highest civilian award, the Padma Shri, in 2017 for his contribution to trade and industry. He is the recipient of the Distinguished Leadership Award of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. He is the recipient of the Distinguished Alumnus Award from IIT Kanpur in 2011 and is a fellow of the Institution of Engineers India in 2015. He has been honored with prestigious Lifetime Achievement Award by DataQuest, a leading publication house that focuses on writing about the developments in the information technology sector on March of 1324. Dr. Reddy holds postgraduate degree from IIT Kanpur and from the University of Michigan. His maiden book, Sir, your Profile, is a book on leadership and young generation, and we all should be hearing it and getting inspired. So I'm not going to miss this opportunity, sorry, sir. His maiden book, Engineered in India, From Dreams to $1 Billion, Cyient, is celebrating the national bestseller status in less than a year after the publication. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation and being a Mr. I must confess that your profile is a testament to your exemplary leadership and entrepreneurship. I now invite Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy, sir, to deliver the distinguished lecture on the role of technology in driving India's economic growth and sustainability. All last.
Professor B.J. Rao Garu, Professor Jessica, Professor Reddy, Dr. Poonam Singh, distinguished faculty, my dear students, a very good morning to all of you. I feel very delighted to be here with all of you this morning, being a part of your celebrations. It's amazing that over a period of last 50 years, University of Hyderabad, which is now celebrating its Golden Jubilee, is now ranked amongst the top 10 universities in the country. And the School of Management Studies, which is also 25 years old at this point of time, is ranked also well, just missing the top 100 by one position, I believe. Institutions get built by individuals. One part of life that we've seen is the brick and mortar all around us. But to graduate some very distinguished people, I saw the list of alumni that this institution has produced so far, is a reflection of the commitment that the faculty has in terms of developing this institution. In addition to the faculty, the staff do their part of their role in making sure that these institutions, without any disruption, run for 24/7, year after year, now for the last 50 years. So I'd like to take this occasion to congratulate Professor B.J. Rao Garu and his rest of the team, the deans, heads of department, faculty, the students who made this institution what it is. Join your hands to thank Professor Rao and the team. I feel very delighted to come and talk to young students like you. I keep saying, where am I in my life? I am past. What I see in front of my eyes is my future. And I see lots of smiling faces, shining eyes, which makes me believe that my future is in safe hands. But what I come to do is to see if I can inspire you, if I can motivate you in any way in making sure that your life will be different, and as a result of it, you'll bring about a societal change to make all our lives different. My story of last, I should confess, I'm 70 plus years old. So I feel very proud about it. The fact that at 73, I'm still standing on my 2 feet. And I can still be in the gym for an hour and a half in the morning. Lesson 1 to learn. Please keep yourself physically fit. That, I think, is important in life. On the lighter vein, of course, Dr. Poonam Singh, with a great amount of patience, read all my resume. But this resume was in a smaller size. 5 years back, was read at another event. And good fortune or bad fortune, I also took my granddaughter with me, 11-year-old. And she also had a friend with her. And the friend was asking, oh my God, your grandfather has done so many things. And she, without blinking an eyelid, says that, oh, he fakes all this stuff. Because he couldn't have done it in one life. so I asked her, did you really mean it? He says, what's the other alternative answer I have for you? I can't say I'm very proud of my grandfather and so on and so forth. So that's how it is. So it's not really so much of a fake as what Pratinya, my granddaughter, said, but I'm very proud about what I did. I spent about 30 plus years, no, sorry, I take that back, 50 years now in the corporate world. But for the last 10 years, my focus has been more of education. So, because I think, corporate world, I've done enough. Dr. Singh was very gracious, kind to tell you what it is. But since you are all from the business school, and also you probably get very excited with numbers, let me tell you the story that I started this company 31 years back in my modest home on my dining table with 4 engineers, with 20 lakhs of my hard-earned savings. Fast forward 30 years thereafter, we now have 18,000 engineers who work for us in 14 different countries across the world. And those 20 lakhs today are valued at 25,000 crores. That's what we created wealth. I'm fairly sure that I'm not going to take this wealth with me. We shared this wealth to the people who created wealth for us. A number of our employees, this 15,000 people, are crorepati's. We feel very proud about it. It's very touching when people come and tell you saying that my son has gone abroad because I work in this company. I celebrated my daughter's wedding because of this company. I built a home because of this company. That's what your life has to be. What you leave behind are these statements and not the money that you make. Moving on, so I decided to talk about harnessing technology. That's where I spend most of my time on building the economic future of this nation. Sorry, I'm not going to get more into sustainability, though it's another topic very dear to me, as rightly pointed out by Professor B.J. Rao Garu, that the SDG goals are critical at this point of time, and especially he made a comment about GDP-led growth will certainly have some compromises in terms of the ecosystem. Truly so, I don't disagree at all. But I think we need to do a good balance between both of them. So my story today to all of you will be more in terms of how do we build an economic future for this nation with all of you. So which effectively says, what do you need to do to make sure you participate and certainly ensure that this country becomes as prosperous as what our ambitions are. So let's move on to the first slide. Where is this country at this point of time? Got an amazing story. Last 10 years, this country's GDP grew by 7%, which is astounding. Not many countries in the world have grown to at that pace. And what we are also seeing at this point of time is that from the 10th largest economy in the world, we became the 5th largest economy. We're very close to be there. It's about $3.7, $3.8 trillion economy we are in the normal GDP terms. And that is a phenomenal success that we've had, moving 5 notches in a span of just 10 years. We also have a very interesting economy, which is very diverse, which actually saw the services part of the economy growing quite dramatically in the last 10 years. It's now hit to a number called 54%. So literally you have a 25% or 20% of the economy in agriculture, and there's 26% of economy in manufacturing and about 50% of it in services. The disappointing part, of course, is that half the working population of this nation works in agriculture. So which in effect says that agriculture is an extremely ineffective part of our economy, and we need to see how we make it more productive. But then God gave us a big gift. He gave a population of 1.4 billion people, 140 crores of people that we have. That's God's gift to us. He gave a gift to us at a point of time that we require it. This is the time we want those young souls like you to help us build this nation. 62.5% of this country is in that population of 16 to 60 years. That's the working population that we have for this nation. And that's a boom for the country, because you have more number of people working compared to people who are not working. The challenges that you see today in Europe and past in Japan is that there are a lot more people who don't work compared to people who work. So the burden on the younger generation is far higher compared to what happens otherwise. And whenever we saw that there is a younger population in the nation has prospered. We have seen upliftment of the GSPD, per capita GDP, it's not GSPD, per capita GDP, and also we saw economic upliftment. Both have happened when we saw a demographic dividend. There's no denying there are challenges that come along with it. We'll talk about them as we get next few minutes. Am I obstructing anything? Yeah, that's fine. So, and then there's God-given gift, we said, and there's a man-made gift for us. And the man-made gift is that we have a stable government for the last 10 years, a stable progressive government which has done a number of initiatives. Please don't mistake me that I belong to any political party. I don't. I want to make that absolutely transparent to all of you. But I believe in terms of good things that's happening. Industry has never been so happy of what it is today. There are policies which are consistent with another, and hopefully that they will continue. So there are a number of initiatives that have happened, which is Make in India, Startup India, Stand Up India, Swachh Bharat, and so on and so forth. All these are certainly helping the nation in terms of progressing. And certainly you have to bear in mind that all these initiatives that are being done are definitely for the economic upliftment of this nation. So you look at the right-hand side, it just graphically shows you that, we're 3.7. What are we trying to aspire ourselves to be is to become the third largest economy in the world, just after US and China. There could be a fairly large gap between us and China at that point of time. We expect that we can become a $5 trillion economy by that time. Is it possible? Mathematically, it's doable. You do a number called 8% growth rate for next 3 years. It takes you, a 3.7 will take you closer to the $5 trillion. And becoming a third largest economy, I think that's easier to do. Because the other economies are growing at about 3%, 4%. The people who are ahead of us are Japan and Germany. So therefore, there's an opportunity which is right now huge. There's no denying we have to take into account what I think Professor Rao Garu alluded to is the SDG goals. We certainly have high levels of poverty, we have income inequalities in this nation, and there are sustainability issues as well as deficit in terms of infrastructure. Let's move on further and look at what are the necessary steps that are required to boost this economy. So there could be hundreds of things that you're required to do, nothing short of that. But I don't have the capability, competence to list out all those hundreds of things, nor do we have time at this juncture to go through all those details. So what I did was I listed about 8 of them. And if you look at the top ones that I have, is what I think Professor Rao Garu started off with. Sir, we did not see each other's presentation. I did not know what you were speaking about. We're so much so on the same plate that is basically, I think, our vision being the same and our goal being the same is what is it? Economic development. We want all of you to prosper. That's both of us have the same objective. And if that's the case, we have to enhance the quality of education, skill development in emerging technologies. We'll come to that in a minute. So there's an opportunity that comes along at this point of time in life, is that we talked about God-sent opportunity, man-made opportunity. but a freak luck that it's again man-made globally for us, is that technologies are changing. Technologies are changing at a pace the humankind has never experienced. I'll get to that in a minute. So therefore, what we need to do further, in addition to quality of education, is to focus on R&D. I think again, Professor Rao mentioned about that, is translation. That, or Professor Jessica talked about it, is that we need to translate what we have as knowledge, I think it's Professor Rao, knowledge into what are actually beneficial to the mankind. It's good, knowledge is outstanding. Knowledge is necessary. Without knowledge, nothing would happen. But can you stop knowledge by saying, I published a lot of papers, my H index has gone up, and or I say, my citations have gone up. That's not what it is. And I stop my research at TRL 3 or TRL 4. If you want your research to get to benefit the mankind, what you require is they have to get to that level of TRL 7 to TRL 8. Piloting has to be done. Prototypes have to be done in order to make sure that we all get prospered. So R&D is the second one. And the third one that I'm talking about is intervention, is that there is enormous amount of need in terms of diverse industries using technologies. We need industry to grow. So therefore, it's not new industries to come, the small and medium enterprises to grow. And the other one, which I'll also come to as an intervention as we go forward, is promotion of entrepreneurship. That becomes a critical element. We talked about the advantage that comes of demographic dividend, younger population. I didn't talk about the challenge that comes along with it. The challenge that comes along with it is every month in India, we put 1 million people in streets of India to get jobs. So you look at the requirement that you have, 1 million jobs every month, 10 million jobs approximately every year. And this demographic dividend will be there for at least 10 more years, if not longer. So 100 million jobs are to be created. And our belief is there's enough of studies that's being done. Net new jobs are always created by small and medium enterprises, 60% of net new jobs, and not by existing large companies. So therefore, there's a need for entrepreneurship. And we've also seen tremendous amount of benefits coming from digital transformation. We still have challenges to saying that, is it complete? Is it inclusive? We have seen some of those challenges. I've experienced some of the challenges. Is it completely exclusive? There may be a digital infrastructure, but do everybody in this country have devices to use the digital infrastructure? Are they enough literate to definitely use them? Only then will we be in a position to harness the digital infrastructure that got created. So therefore, we need to invest more in infrastructure. We need to improve on ease of doing business. I don't want to get into those in detail. And we also need to have a sustainable development plan, which was referred to earlier. So therefore, all this can happen, all these interventions to boost this economy. I'll only focus myself on the top 4 at this point of time in the next few slides. But this requires a concentrated effort that has to go between the government, the businesses, which is trade and industry, the education institutions, and therefore, what we need to drive this nation is, what's the biggest asset we have? Is people. And the people, if they get well educated, they'll become knowledgeable. So this country has to become a knowledge economy. People have to look up to India saying that if you have a technology challenge, a challenge which is to do anything with science, it has to be, India has to be the destination. That's what I mean by saying we need to drive this nation to become a knowledge economy. So therefore we said technology is one of the other gifts that we got to mankind. And certainly what has happened is that the technology does a number of revolutions. I think Professor Jessica talked about the steam engine. She said that made a lot of difference to our lives. But she also said, that made people work for long hours. I might like to have a small difference with you, madam. Apologies to you. The harder people work, my belief in life is they become smarter. They don't get tired. They learn more. So my message to my young friends again is that work as hard as you can. You'll only become smarter. You won't get tired. You don't get older. It might gray your hair. That's okay. It doesn't matter to me. I still learn every day because that's what I think gives me inspiration in my life to say I need to live one more day to learn more. So therefore, what we've seen is industrial revolutions have always changed lives. You look at the chart, I'm sorry, it's a little too small, but you look at the chart that is there on the top. This one here. So this starts with 1,000 years BC, coming all the way to 2000 AD. And you look at this curve that's here on the bottom, it's absolutely flat till about 1800. That's when the Industrial Revolution happened. What is on the y-axis for me is the GDP. So GDP across the world was absolutely flat till the Industrial Revolutions happened. Then came the Industrial Revolutions that happened one after the other, and there was 3 of them, or 4 of them, or we don't know now, n number of them is what we keep joking around. Because in the past, when an Industrial Revolution happened, the first one with mechanization, or along with that was steam, or the second one with electricity and automobiles, or the third one with information computers, technologies associated with them. All of them took a fairly long periods of time. That's how we said it's a revolution that happened. They were discretely different. We could say that there was a gap in between each one of them. But today, the pace at which technology changes does not have that gap any longer. That is what we are in the middle of, which we call it as the 4th Industrial Revolution. And what is the 4th Industrial Revolution? It is basically cyber physical systems. What is in the air? What is there which we can't see? The electronic bits and bytes are now talking to human beings. We're connecting with each other and talking and exchanging information at this point of time. So that is how the world has changed, the 4th Industrial Revolution, which is the fastest of the lot, and I'll give you examples of that. And as a result of that, what we have seen is that certainly upliftment of human being comforts have increased, and we also seen the GDP growth has happened. And that is what my third slide is. Sorry. The third slide, the third one at the bottom, I should have probably brought bigger ones. I'm sorry about this. So what you see is that the GDP growth rates, the per capita GDP percentage growth, this is the bottom line, has increased quite dramatically as new industrial revolutions came in. And with the 4th, you certainly see a lot more happening in terms of the growth. That's the bottom part of it, if you can't see this one. So therefore, what we have seen is every time an industrial revolution happened, 2 things clearly human beings started feeling. One is there's economic upliftment, and without any denying, there was definitely comforts have gone up for the human beings. No denying, without any denying, I say there was challenges with jobs. Whether it was 1, 2, 3, 4, it'll continue. But the challenge with the jobs could be addressed by reskilling yourself. A very classic example of mine is I have a picture, 2 pictures of mine. I'm sure you can go and Google them around, you'll find them. There's a picture of New York 5th Avenue, 1907, from a very vantage point building. Our photograph taken shows that, it is all full of horse-drawn carriages, except for a few cars which were there. 10 years later, in 1917, from the same vantage point, somebody took the same picture. The street was full of cars, and there were just about a few horse-drawn buggies. And I keep saying, in those 10 years, we did not kill all the horses, nor the horsemen did not go starving. They reskilled themselves. That's when the automobile revolution came by. They skilled themselves to go and build automobiles. So therefore, that intervention will be required. So what is that is making this 4th industrial revolution or Industry 4.0, which we're talking about, the cyber physical systems, so intense as what I'm talking about? I keep talking about 4 pillars, which make it so different from what has been in the past. Computers, communication, sensors, and algorithms. Those are four that you see on the left-hand side. Computers and cloud, mobile, Internet of Things, automation of knowledge. My first rendezvous with computers was way back in 1973. I was a student at IIT Kanpur. Except for a few people in the front, I'm sure none of you were born. I can challenge that. And there were 4,000 students on the campus. Excitement in life because computers, for the first time we are hearing. So some form or other, everybody wanted to be in the computer center. Go and use the computers. 4,000 students. And that was the best computer center in the country for any education institution. Even it was one notch above IISc those days. IISc could have overtaken now IIT Kanpur. And what are the computers? We had an IBM 7044, we have an IBM 1620 and IBM 1401, three of them. How big were they? They were taking a room of this size, just the computers. More interestingly, in front of the computer center used to be a water fountain. And the water used to be dancing all the time. That used to be very fascinating to me, more than the computers to start with. What a marvel of an architecture I used to think about, till I realized that this water fountain actually was cooling the computers. That's the amount of water that was required. And now, what is the power of the computer that was there inside? It is less than what you or I have with me as an individual. And some of you I know have two of them. So how many of you have two cell phones? Put your hand up, please. Look at them. I think some more people have become smart. So Professor Rao also has two of them. So this is what is. So therefore you had twice the power of what, you have twice the power of what IIT Kanpur had at one point of time. And that is how the whole computers have become. So what did you see now from what I explained? The computers have become more powerful. They're coming into your pocket. They become smaller. And they become cheaper. Every one of us have a computer. And you know, some of you have a cell phone, all right. They're not two of them. They're two because you have two SIM cards inside. So that is one phenomena that we've seen. This is actually the proponent of this theory was a gentleman called Gordon Moore, who was the founder of Intel Corporation. Moore's Law, it's called. And what did Gordon Moore say? He said every 18 months the computers will become smaller, cheaper, and faster. By half, and twice. 20 years later or 30 years later, people went back to check whether Gordon Moore's law was right or wrong. And people said he was wrong. Why? Because it doesn't take 18 months for the computers to become twice faster. It takes less than the amount of time. And so is the case with communication. People like me belong to a generation where we waited for 7 years to 9 years to get a phone, a landline. My Western friends used to laugh at me because they used to come to India and see that, you know, look, for our senior executives, a prerequisite used to be a phone will be provided in your home. So he used to be a very senior executive, 30 years, 40 years of experience he has to have to get that phone. And what is it now? You just walk into any of those shops, not even the big shop. I'm sure from University of Hyderabad, hardly a kilometer away, you can go and find a SIM card and a phone too, to say that, you know, I have one more with me. That's the proliferation of this communication technology has happened. But this communication technology, when you start communicating, this is called the Metcalfe's law. Some of you are familiar with that. Is the power of communicating, or power of network, is considered to be twice the power of nodes on it. That is the square of number of people who are communicating with each other. Now is an age and time that we have. Twice, now we can have people and also devices communicating with each other. Can you also share the same joke with all of us? The two young ladies who have lots of conversation going on. Why don't you share with us? What are you talking about? Brave enough, stand up. Not brave enough, then stop talking. Thank you. So therefore, now come back to the communication capabilities that we have. The communication capabilities is power. The power of the communication is square of the number of nodes that are there. And so what are the number of nodes that are there between people and devices? Can somebody take a guess at it? You can put up your hand. I'll allow you. Maybe the young ladies. You know how many nodes are there in the world right now communicating with each other? People and devices. 1, 2, 10, 20 billion, 10 billion, 20 billion. In 2020, the number was 20 billion. There are 5 billion people and 15 billion devices. I can communicate with my car. My mails are there in the car. My phone is already answering without my intervention my emails. That's how technology has come by. That's how the communication technology goes in. I should be very careful with my time. I get a little carried away. So let me move on further. The third one is about these sensors. These were ugly-looking devices, which are huge in size, were expensive. And what were they doing? They were just about getting to what human beings can do. What they're doing now, they can do it better than the human beings. God gave us those 5 senses. Our ability to see, our ability to hear, our ability to smell, taste, and feel. All these 5 senses, the sensors at this point of time, are doing equally better than as good as human beings. And these are putting oceans of data thereafter. That oceans of data, which is coming from the sensors for heat, sensors for vibration, sensors for vision. A car now beeps at me, even I am not seeing where somebody is going to come and touch me. 6 inches away from the car, that's about say 15 centimeters or so. A car is close to me, the car is beeping like crazy. What is it? It's sensing. It's better than the human eye at this point of time. So, and not only that, it gives us a lot of data. And if I can now use that data for making decisions, I can make more precise decisions online in real time. That's how the technology has converged itself. I don't want to mislead you saying it's all about this computers, communication, sensors, and AI. Even the other technologies, whether it is to do with nanotechnology or with genomes, or for that matter, any amount of automation that's going on, robotics, 3D printing, every technology at this point of time is accelerating at a pace that the humankind has never experienced so far. And so is with energy and sustainability. So here's an example. I wish I could get this enlarged any further. So look at the AI's influence on mankind right now. I don't know if you can read that slide, but what it says primarily is that if you look at one of the initial stages of bringing AI for use is for speech recognition and handwriting recognition. These are the 2 things we said, can the computers do for us? And this started off, 0-level efficiency, it's what is called the baseline. This one started off in 1998. It took 21 years for the computers to start now becoming as good as, it's called 100% efficiency of a human being. It took 21 years to do that. But new AI has come in, generative AI, large language models, LLMs as they're called. So now people started using them for comprehension. How long does it take to, how long did mankind take to get the computers comprehend what you write? It just took 6 months. They're equally good. It actually takes me off my feet when I think about it. I give a note which is 5 pages long. Say, give me the synopsis. Not even 10 seconds. Less than 10 seconds, I get a synopsis of what I need to read. Absolutely consistent. Never have been disappointed with what I get. The other day, they came and installed 2 weeks back, 3 weeks back. It was a very exciting weekend that I had. They did 2 things. One is there's a software, AI software called Copilot, which goes in the Microsoft Outlook and the rest, Outlook and PowerPoint presentations and so on and so forth. And what does it do, the Copilot right now? You give the Copilot a document and say, convert them into PPTs. Like this it did it for me. And it actually reinforced some of these thinking further into them. And are they very expensive? No. There is also that weekend, by a strange coincidence, also got a device called the Apple's Visual Pro. It's an amazing device. If you go and see in the YouTube, you'll find it. It's a little thicker than the reading glasses that we wear. It does everything. You can do your emails, you can do your PPTs, you can, of course, watch movies. And the way in which that frame has been done, the speakers actually come and hit your ears. Your neighbor does not hear what you're hearing, but you hear what exactly is done. It's an expensive gadget. And the best thing that I liked is that the movies that you watch, it looks like, it's more like a 10 feet by 8 feet screen. That's how technology is progressing. My friend was with me and he said, Mohan, can I also look at it? I gave it to him. The first thing it does is that it grades your site automatically. How long does it take? Few seconds. And then, you're absolutely, only thing that as my, now she's become 16-year-old granddaughter says, is very annoying. Tata, you sit in front of us and keeps doing all this all the time. This is how you communicate with the machine. You pinch, you drag, you drop. That's very annoying because you put on glasses as if you're not listening to people and start doing this in front of them. But that's how technology is, leaving apart the annoyance at this point of time. So what is next, therefore, is the other thing that's happened is enormous amount of change that we have seen in terms of costs. Look at the order of cost differentiation that's happened. The 3D printing was costing about, this little data, I couldn't get it updated, is 3D printers, when they came into existence about 17 years back, they were at about $40,000. What are they costing now? They're just costing you about $100. You want sophisticated stuff, metal printing and so on and so forth, they'll go to $700. Every one of them, you look at 3D sensors, sensors for LiDAR, which is basically vision. Sorry, I missed something important I should share with you on this particular chart, is that there are some areas where we think that the AI is working at an efficiency which is superior to the human beings. So you might ask me, give me an example, Mr. Reddy, it's vision. At computer vision, we are saying it's working at about 130% efficiency of human beings. A further example is, you look at, maybe not the younger people at the back, the people with my age group in the front, or a little younger to me in the front, we go to a doctor to get a chest X-ray done. And the X-ray comes out, and the doctor puts it in this light and says, yeah, it's clean, you can go. Not realizing that if you put it into a computer system and analyze it, it can do a year ahead of the doctor, better than the naked eye. Right? Absolutely. So therefore, I think they're ahead of us in many things, and this is how the whole cost structure is going down. And everything, whether it's, you look at body scans, at one point of time they used to cost us $10,000. Now they're down to $100 actually. So therefore what is happening as a result of this is three things I like to call out. One is technology has become accessible because the cost has come down. The second one is it has also become competitive. I missed my thought. Yeah, the one is that it's become accessible. The second one, it's become affordable. And the third thing is it's become competitive. So it's there in everybody's hands at this point of time. Look at the phones that you have. It's not a luxury anymore. It's a necessity for me. Without a phone, I can't survive. And further, because of this accessibility and affordability and competitiveness, the combination of that is that you look at any industry, you can name, and I'll tell you an application for it. Whether it's healthcare, it's transportation, it's agriculture, it is services, it's education, or it's manufacturing. Very exciting applications. I've seen some of the best doctors in the world in the last 6 months, calling them primarily, two of them were here in Hyderabad. And both accept one thing, that if you fast forward a year from now, 2 years from now, a doctor cannot work without an AI engine. So they're saying, can the doctor be replaced by AI? No, they can't. But they'll be co-piloting with you. A world famous gastroenterologist was telling me the other day, if you look at an endoscope, that's basically, seeing your gut on a TV screen, when it goes inside the system, is that a doctor used to find what is the physical condition of the patient. He knows that it's probably somewhere in the lower abdomen. Once particular speed, it goes all the way to lower abdomen to see what it is. They're saying, no, that's not true anymore. As now it descends, it can take so many images. It tells the doctor, stop here. There's something more interesting here rather than going to the lower abdomen at this point of time. That's the way in which technology is moving. And we have seen those applications. We started an application in the recent past in agriculture. What is this about? Originally, I'll be very honest and I'll confess my ignorance about this, is the whole idea was to see how we can save pesticide for a farmer. What was the idea therefore is take drones, fly the drones, wherever there is actually a farmer, if he sees pest in the farm, he will do pesticide all across the farm, which is basically where the pest is not there, the rest of it I keep saying we consume. That's what happens to us. The pesticide is coming back to us. So as opposed to that, we say, here is the area. It can take you to a tile 1 feet by 1 feet. So only to that 1 feet by 1 feet that you spray the pesticide. So that was the intent of that program. We said you'll get about 60% saving. But what was amazing was that when we flew these drones and the data came back, the visual data that came back to us, they said, sir, we can get 64 characteristics of the crop, starting with soil and the crop. Pest was one of the minor ones in life. We can even do predictive analytics of what will be the crop. So that is how you see the invasion of technology all around. It's not limited to one industry, not limited to anyone, and there are innumerable number of examples. The last one that I give is in healthcare again. That's an exciting field. People talk about telemedicine, teleconsulting. No, it's not any longer that anymore. It's now telesurgery. Because of 5G technologies where latency is less than 1 millisecond at this point of time, you can find that as you have a digital twin of the patient, as the stylus moves 1,000 miles apart with the specialist doctor, on the other side, actually, the knife is moving. There's a bleed that's there. It has to be clotted. Less than 1 millisecond, the doctor can give instruction now saying, clot this off. That's the power of technology. And that's how the transformation is happening. So what do I want you people to do? I have 3 actions, very consistent with Professor B.J. Rao again. The first one is about quality of education. He talked about knowledge and skills. Sir, that's there on the slide with me too. And we will talk about research and innovation, and finally talk about startups and entrepreneurship. So therefore, I think what is extremely important at this point of time is that all of you have to change your mindset. Professor Rao said, so knowledge, we talked about the past, before pre-independence era, knowledge was very important. People pushed us with knowledge, not looking at application. And that knowledge also slowly got into a mode where it became rote learning. That is, people who were by-hearting everything. It is not the challenge with the student itself. It's not the challenge with the teacher. It's the challenge with the whole society. It is the whole ecosystem that came in. So I think that requires a change now. You have to take it on yourself to start saying, I'll become more creative. How do I become creative? I start challenging the status quo. Why does this work this way? That's when I keep getting ideas saying that I can make it work better, differently. I certainly want to get to levels of curiosity. Even today, at where I'm in my life, I constantly start thinking about, look, why is this happening this way? The other day, my domestic assistant had water in the knee. The doctor said, just give him some pain medication, everything will be all right. But my question was, why does it happen this way? So finally, they're getting down to actually doing a biopsy on his knee. So therefore, unless you get to that level, everybody, so therefore, I'm not complaining about the doctor. Everybody is saying, status quo, it's okay, we fix the problems. We can't fix the problems. If you truly want to become just not the third largest economy in the world, but you want to become in the Viksit Bharat in the next 20 plus years, 25 years or so, by 2047, when India becomes 100 years old, if we want to become a developed nation, we have to change the way in which we have to think. That's within us. That's with our faculty. Our faculty has to help us, and you have to change. I'm not asking you to run a 100-meter race. I'm not asking you to climb Mount Himalayas tomorrow. That requires a lot of training. I'm asking you to think differently. That requires only one thing, and that is attitude. If you change your attitude, you're there. So also, therefore, what we require is that we have to definitely inspire our students. My faculty friends, I have this ask from all of you. Allow them to think big. Why not? President Abdul Kalam said, he was daydreaming. What's wrong with them? It doesn't cost you anything. I dream even today. I want to do something different, something which is impactful, something which will make difference to the society. So is the case with every one of you. You should think similarly. And then we are saying that, curriculum has to change. One of the things we talked earlier too, before we came into this hall, was curriculum changes have to happen. Notes have to be thrown off. Notes have to be put into the burner. So you can't repeat the same notes for next class. I will throw off my presentation as soon as I go back. I want to do something different for next presentation. So therefore, I think curriculum development, and what the headline for this quality education to me is what I've been working on a project at University of Michigan. It's called student-centric experiential learning. We're to become very student-centric because the student has now become the focus for us. It's not the teacher any longer, because you might see me right now, but I'm sure if you want to learn more about technology, you can just step out of the room, or you can even do it right away, that you can go into YouTubes and then find what's more interesting, right? So therefore, what the teacher is not important, because there are multiple teachers who have come by. The skill of the teacher is important. Knowledge is with me. Knowledge I transfer to you. But you now have become extremely important, and we keep talking about this. I spent about last 14 years in education now, talking about education student. And student today is not be in a position to engage unless you start asking questions. We actually, in some of the IIT systems, we don't have any more of this auditorium layout. They're all called the banquet layout, circular tables in which we want to teach people. Because learning could be a lot more between interacting with people as opposed to just listening to one man, verbose on one side. So therefore, I think the first one is that we have to have a fairly larger change in quality of education. In terms of the other thing that we have, last comment on this part, is that knowledge at this point of time is not stagnant, the way in which it's changing. So learning has to be continuous. I belong to a generation people said 1 degree was good enough for you. That's not true anymore. You have to be every year, every 6 months for that matter. You have to learn some, not necessarily go to college, not necessarily you should get a degree for yourself. So long as you're learning, I think that makes the difference. Let me move on to the next one. Is that R&D becomes very important if this country has to see that economic growth. We can't be continuously depending upon our friends from the Western world. We have that ability at this point of time. We have great institutions that we have built. We're also doing good amount of investment. The investment, I talk about it too. Our education investment is about 4.5% of our GDP. Our R&D investment is about 0.6% of the GDP. So those have to be improved. And as we talked about earlier, that R&D does not mean just publishing papers. R&D has to come into translation, where we have to see products or services emanating from the research that comes in. I think it is very important, therefore, that we have to make our people talent-centric, research-centric, and more in terms of doing innovation. Innovation, as I started off, was challenging the status quo, be persistent with the ideas, take those risks in life, work in teams, and that's when you will see more amount of outcomes from what we are researching at this point of time. We talked about holistic education. I think here is an opportunity for you to do that. That is, don't get very focused towards what is exactly your specialization. All the 125 credits need not be in that area. Even if the university insists 125 have to be done, okay, we'll do it. I'm not saying revolt against it. But make sure that you learn a lot more. Life is all about learning. 125 is just one tick mark to me to get the degree. They won't award the degree otherwise. They'll change. But more important to you is learn something more, whether it is music, whether it is sports, or it is to do with literature, or it's geopolitics, why not? That's when you start getting a comprehensive view of the whole world to participate in this big movement that's there in terms of economic development. My last slide for today is what's more dear to me, is all about startups. I believe that this is very critical for this nation in several ways. I talked about employment generation. The second one is economic upliftment. A third one is we have also seen startups which do a lot more innovation. It comes from somebody who employs 18,000 people. We become fat, we become slow, we push ourselves hard. Not that I'm saying it's an inefficient company. If we're an inefficient company, we would not have had a market cap of about $3 billion at this point of time. We struggle, but not all people struggle. What we have seen is without this struggle, the startups are a lot more agile. They're a lot more nimble-footed. They try out their ability to take risks are much larger. So therefore, startups certainly help the nation, just not in terms of one area of economic upliftment or foreign exchange earning, but in making sure that you have an innovative world. And therefore, what we need to do is, earlier I heard from your faculty that it is entrepreneurship, for instance, has become an integral part of the course. But I push very hard saying that, why don't we make it minor in entrepreneurship? We've now got that in the whole of the IIT system. Undergrad program in engineering has a minor in entrepreneurship. Please try out those ideas. Nothing is lost. I urge every one of you to think about being entrepreneurs, including our faculty. Because yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine from University of Florida, and he was saying 90% of the faculty have now a startup going on. Because what is the strength that the faculty have? Knowledge. That's there with them. So translate that knowledge for the benefit of others. You can get, people all think, oh no, startups is all about making money. Not necessarily true. You could be, entrepreneurial spirit to me is just not starting business. It's all about thinking differently, thinking new, having impatience, making sure that you want to achieve something different from what you've achieved so far. So therefore, I think I urge the faculty and Honorable Vice Chancellor Garu, saying that we need to give a lot more spurt to the entrepreneurship. So 3 things I had to ask from you. A, B, C, I call them. A is we need to definitely improve what we have as a knowledge and the skills associated with us. The second one is that we need to focus more on R&D, and all of you should get that entrepreneurial spirit, even if a few of you become only entrepreneurs thereafter. So therefore, my last word is you should harness technology for India's economic future, investing in the power of knowledge, creativity, and collaboration. Thank you. Thank you. So I did plan in such a way that I'll probably take a few questions from you. If you have any questions, already the hands have gone up. Yeah, please go ahead. The young man from the back. So his hand went first, so I saw him first rather. I'll come to you. I think.
Thank you, sir, for the enlightening session. You have been repeatedly talking about, focus on R&D. We are a university research scholar, and we have talked about status awards. Our some non-tech fellowship is stagnant since 2007. And some other things like such kinds of fundings, and I want to thank our Vice Chancellor that because of IOE, our scholars are getting 20,000 fellowship if they are having some publication. So that is from our side. But how do we compete with our Western counterparts if we have not have much or competitive resources, particularly in the monetary?
Sure. Good point you're making. Certainly, I think it requires to be addressed. We are doing our best at this point of time, and wherever see, I'm only a small little soldier somewhere around the billions of people who are around. But whatever possible, we try to err that, given that, our R&D spend is only 0.6% of the GDP, which actually goes to a number which is about 4 to 5% in the Western world. Certainly makes us believe in R&D, not necessarily only for a product that has to go by. I keep saying even for business models, there's a research that requires to be done before it comes by. Innovation is not all about product innovation. It's process innovation, business model innovation, and so on and so forth. So I take your point. Yes, I think we will see a lot of action in the next few years to see that, R&D gets the right place as we move forward. That part I'm fairly confident about. Yes.
First of all, thank you so much for an amazing presentation. And we got a lot of insights on especially what we need to do at grassroots levels to get the economy right. And my question to you, when I'm talking to you, I think I'm also representing the students here. On the one side, we have the education system, which is imparting the knowledge. And on the other side, we have the entire world moving very quickly with AI, with cryptocurrency, decentralization and all. And at this point of time, we are a little bit in a confused state on which skills to cope up with and where we need to exactly work on. And we don't have we have our professors, right, to get the guidance, but it's an internal struggle for us to figure out how we go about the situation.
Good question, and a genuine concern. It's a concern that many of us have. Where do I start? What do I do? And so on and so forth. My answer to it, start whatever you like, what you think is right. I can relate to you very well. I used to be extremely disappointed in my life at one stage. So many people have so much of knowledge and I have very little with me. Then I started realizing the way in which I can compete with them is only when I learn. And not look at them and say, oh, they're so knowledgeable and I'm not so knowledgeable. So don't think about there's so much of knowledge that's there and I don't have that with me. Start addressing that knowledge. Over a period of time, you will start understanding what is the one which you should go towards. Nobody can forecast more than 1 year from now in terms of how technologies are moving, okay? So therefore, what you do is what you like. Don't do it blindly. What you like. And that liking has to come from your heart. So what your mind says, that look, this is what you need to do. Please go and do it.
So right now, the options that we have in the real world, like I can go with the AI, I can go with decentralized systems where the decentralized physical infrastructure that is building around, and that is where, like, as I told, going with the heart and the liking of what we do is.
That's what you should do. See, a number of people come to me and ask me saying that, Mr. Reddy, I want to become an entrepreneur. And then they tell me, and especially with all due respect for politicians and bureaucrats, they bring their children to me, saying that, Reddy garu, చెప్పండి ఏదో ఒక్క ఐడియా అండి సరిపోతుంది ఒక ఐడియా ఇచ్చేస్తే నేను వీడిని నేను సర్చ్ చేసేస్తాను నేను చెప్తాను సార్ దిస్ ఇస్ ది రెసిపీ ఫర్ డిజాస్టర్ వాడికి మనసులో లేదు ఎంటర్ప్రినర్ అవుదామని స్టార్టప్ చేద్దామని నేర్చుకుందామని చెప్పి మీరు చెప్తున్నారు వాడికి ఏది నేర్పించమని చెప్పి సో ఇది జరిగే పని కాదని అందుకోసం డోంట్ లుక్ ఫర్ సంబడి ఎల్సెస్ అడ్వైస్ think what is best and learn. That's what you should do. Good? Thank you. There's a lot. Let's look at the young man in the back first. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I have attended interview on Cyient in the year 2019. So, being an initial learner for us, preparing about ourselves, preparing about company thing, is the first two things that we will learn being an interviewer. So, sir, I like the doubt raised and the thing which I have to keep to know about from my colleagues, that you have been started with 4 people and still the dining table is in a company which you made it as a thing. And what is the risk forecasting thing that you have made, sir? Because at that time, as you are the technical knowledge you are having, so it might be a good paying to you. So leaving all the jobs and starting your own company, and have you made any risk forecasting things and the thing at that time? Along with that, sir, like one more question adding to that, being in top management, like what would be the impact of AI in support functions, sir, like HR, marketing and admin people?
Sure. The first question was risk management. That's one of the things which keeps most of us awake through the night, the risks that we have in our business. The risks are there in terms of your service offerings. There's competition that can come by. The bigger risk that we have is that our people itself. We keep saying they're moving assets. They walk into the door in the morning, they walk out in the evening. That's my biggest asset. Asset is not under my control. I have to attract that asset to come back to work next morning. So that's a risk. So we actually have grown to a level where from where we were, we actually have a board committee which does risk assessment every 3 months. The risk committee that goes by. And one of the bigger ones that we are currently grappling with is cybersecurity risks. Actually, to do business with the top 500, Fortune 500 companies, we need to have certain numbers with us as to how we have handled our cyber security threats. Even today, there are 1,500 on an average attacks on our website. And the closer we get to our financials on a quarter, the attacks become larger. And so therefore, risk is a part of life. You have to assess the risks, start guarding against them. And there are at times risks which you can't even predict. And these are surprises like hell. Very early in the life of this company, we had an IP violation. We coached our engineers saying that IP is like God. You can't violate that. And still somebody was lazy enough that they copied something in the past and gave it to a new customer, right? And that became a lawsuit. Or we were, like anybody else, we were doing good, and suddenly there was a terrorist attack in Glaxo. And one of those 2 people who were involved was an ex-employee of the company. So people said we were harboring terrorists in our company. There was a Wall Street Journal article on us. So you have lots of risks that are come in business. Business is not all about going to sleep very happily thereafter. But you have the downside. You have also the upside to go along with it. The second one is, how are we seeing the support functions? Very threatening, honestly. And anything, and I don't want to mix about things, anything which is very repetitive in nature, we're in a position to use the AI engines. We now got AI engines which are running on recruitment processes. Actually, they're so good, I can't believe it. Because if I look at a resume, suppose I look at a profile of what the job is, job profile, then I see a resume. So what is it? It's triangulating in my mind, saying that this profile that I had in mind, does this resume fit in or not? A judgmental call. Somebody calls me on the phone, I take the phone, talk to them, then put down, again look at the resume saying that will this person fit in or not, doesn't fit in. You take all that out now. You don't need to actually put your resume into a format. It can parse it. You can write handwritten applications. You just give it to the system, scan it and give it, it parses it and puts it saying that this guy has these skills with them. You say, this is my job profile. It says, these are the skills, matches them and says, this is the person. And based on the personal profile, they are now actually helping us even do interviews. They actually profile the questions that are to be put to people. So therefore, as far as automation is concerned, will come in the low end. This is a repetitive job, right? I go and read a profile after profile. That's what the computer can do much better. But what is happening is the higher end jobs, that are there. Actually, who wrote that software? It's another software engineer who wrote that software, or who is administering it, who is selling it so well, an MBA like you. So therefore, there are higher end jobs that will come by, as opposed to lower end jobs disappearing, especially in the staff functions. Yes, sir, please.
Thank you for a very inspiring.
Thank you.
My question is, how do you think on-campus education will evolve? Because of what you say, it looks like that on-campus teachers may become irrelevant in a few years' time. So could you shed some light on
Sure.
how a campus like this will kind of evolve?
I personally believe that it will become, the campuses for education become hybrid in nature. Teacher will never disappear. Teacher is a knowledge person. He will become a mentor. He will guide you in what is to be learned, what is to be unlearned. De-learning, unlearning will be done by the teacher. But certainly, I think what will happen is the student will have multiple sources of learning. It can't be just one teacher, and it can't be one book. I see the transformation that has gone through is enormous. So therefore, what we are envisaging is, and also change takes a lot of time, right? The lighter vein, I keep joking, that in American universities, they built so much of real estate in terms of hostels, in-campus housing as it's called. They can't say, don't come to the campus. I believe, so the new model is, you have to come to the campus, but you don't need to come to the class. Because he has to pay the hostel fees, mess, all that has to run. So change will take time. I think what we see is happening right now in a hybrid mode. But because there's also a fairly large amount of transformation that has to happen to teacher. We're saying you can take an open book exam. Now, if an open book exam cannot be done by every teacher right now, if I ask any teacher saying that, do an open book exam, give me questions, some people might give you may give few. If I challenge you, you might be in a position to give you questions for me now. But if I say long term, this particular course, you have to give open book questions, it's tough. They also have to go through this process of learning. So what I see is teacher cannot be replaced. That's number one. Teacher will always be there. Number two is learning will become very hybrid mode. Some of it will be on campus, off campus, in person, not in person. And learning will also become fairly interactive, that people will have to use their hands. That is, I see that skills and knowledge will get merged. A knowledgeable person will become a saint. People will say, oh yeah, he's got a lot of knowledge, so what good is it? So if you start merging both skills, and the last one I will say is that it will also be not just learning from the teacher, but also from the peer group. Those are some of the trends that we are seeing. Last question? Was it the last? Last one, last bench, last hand up. The two, yeah. Last, and the young lady there will finish off. Sorry, Professor Rao, if I'm taking a little more time. 44. Yeah, go ahead.
One is from your first part and one is from last part. So first question is, we are very fastest developing country. So even if we are developing very fast, our standard of living compared to the other countries, we are in compared for around 10-15% compared to the standard of living and saving. So how this technology improvements, like solution to this problem. And second question is, I had a recent research that fellow friends that this generally you already mentioned that is very helpful for students. We all are using generally ChatGPT and other boards also. So in my study, I found 67% of the students they say after using this ChatGPT, we are feeling less efforts, like our laziness in our educational process. So, what is your advice to the students who are using AI?
Okay, the first question is standards of living, will they improve with the economic upliftment? The answer is yes. The good example that I have is that today in India, the patient-doctor ratio is 1 to 10,000. You have for every 10,000 people, there's just one doctor. And the doctor has the same 24 hours. But look at some of the efficiencies that we are building into the systems with technology. The doctor can see a lot more patients in that 24 hours that he has or she has compared to what they have done. So therefore, certainly in terms of living standards, the accessibility of a doctor, accessibility of medication, all that will improve dramatically to people. And we also talked about, the way in which the costs are coming down. So affordability will go up, accessibility will improve. All that is one part. The second one is, yes, ChatGPT at this point of time makes life easy. But I think as we are in a sort of a transformation mode at this point of time. You're not still seeing the best of ChatGPT coming out from our professors too. They will challenge your knowledge in such a way that you have to think through yourself. ChatGPT will come to a certain level. It will help you. It will make you a little more efficient. Especially, question of efficiency, not knowledge. It can't improve my knowledge for sure. What it's making me more efficient. If I want to write an email, instead of my typing it out and thinking about what should be the thing, and somebody says, Mr. Reddy, you did ABCD, or you received this award on such and such a day. The recent one is the bulk of emails that came in from the DataQuest award I got about 2 weeks back. And all those were very simple way, ChatGPT, you run the Copilot on Microsoft and that's all done. So therefore, don't ever think that it's going to be lessening your knowledge. If you want to stay back and become a ChatGPT application agent, you will continue to do that. But I think if you think in terms of having knowledge, then ChatGPT won't help you. The lady up here, the last but one, and the last question to the end.
Thank you, sir, for this enlightening session. So, me as a student, I would like to ask that what skill sets the industry require from us to gain so that we can be a part of it?
Okay, the answer is fairly simple. There's nothing called a stagnant, stationary skills that we require from you. Because the skills will change from time to time. I belong to an age and time when we used to write programs in a language called autocoder. You might not, none of you could have even heard about what autocoder is. But now the pace at which the Pythons are going, or R is going, or R++ is going at this point of time, they're different skills. So what as an employer that I always look for, and that's something very important, your learning ability. Because I don't want to, which means that, I have, you're ready with some skills, you're ready made for the job that I have. But I know for sure that's not what my ultimate objective is. I have to sustain my business for longer periods of time. If I have to sustain, therefore, what the large companies we're looking for. I've done this research myself. We went and interviewed some of the personal managers. And they're all trying to say right now, it is not, whether R or R++ as a programmer at this point of time. What you're required to know is, what is the basics of how computer programming is done? How is a computer architecture done? Did I answer you? Last question. Somebody to the right flank, yes.
Produced by approximately 60% of the population. As you said, there is productivity required, the percentage of the agriculture opportunity more, and technology plays a vital role. As the technology grows, the percentage of people who are employed gradually reduces. What will happen to the 60% of the people? The 20% might become 30% because the land has limits, and there will be more sustainability.
Sure.
So 30% is what, 50 million, 50 crore people. So what will happen to that part of the population?
They'll all get gainfully employed with the other businesses that go by, whether it is industry or trade or any other factors, which is not just necessarily agriculture. So we do reckon with these numbers because people have to come into non-organized sector into an organized sector. That's another huge thing that's happening. That is because people who are not covered by PF, medical, etc. There are tons of people in this country. Those have to be bringing into an organized sector. The second one is the agricultural workers who now don't have jobs because of automation that's come in. We're already seeing that happening in some pockets of India. So they have to be skilled. Without skilling, they can never come into the mainstream. And today, if you look at honestly the industry situation, that we actually have a lot of jobs which are not being in a position to fill them because we don't have skilled people. The freshers do not have those skills at this point of time. So it's not a very simple equation. It's a fairly large process that has to go through, and also time-consuming process. It's not tomorrow we don't have 30% of agricultural labor coming into the workforce. Over a period of time, it will happen. And I think there are strategies in place to see how the economy upliftment will happen. That is, industry, services, businesses, manufacturing, for instance, will all go up to ensure that we absorb them. I know you're not convinced about my answer, but that's the right answer, I thought. Thank you. Thank you again for inviting me today. I enjoyed being with you. Thank you very much. Sorry, it took a little longer.
Can I request all the dignitaries to please join on the dais, please? Thank you so much, sir, for the exceptional, thought-provoking delivery. We have noted all the 3 action points and investment in skill and knowledge, investment in R&D, and encouraging startup and entrepreneurship. And yes, dear students, it's the faculty who has been urged to make you dream big. So thank you so much, and we are truly indebted to you for your presence and for your time. Before I request the coordinator of this lecture series to propose the formal vote of thanks, I request the Vice Chancellor, Professor B.J. Rao, sir, to present a token of gratitude to Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy Garu.
I enjoyed myself. I'm honored to come and speak to all your students. This is an interesting and happy to know you. Thank you.
Yeah, please. I now request Professor Irala Lokananda Reddy, the coordinator of this lecture series, to propose the formal vote of thanks.
So good, I would say noon, one and all. I'm actually at loss of words. I don't know. I might make mistakes proposing vote of thanks. I fondly remember I met Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy sometime in 2000 or 2001 to interview him for a project of Wharton School of Business called Globe. So later on I didn't had much interaction with the sir, but there are few things that were in my mind. When we entered his room, he was just finishing his meeting with his CFO. I still remember that meeting, how clear he was in asking his CFO how the share was doing. And I'm really happy today we note it's valued at $3 billion. Following that, when we have invited sir for this lecture, I was preparing the brochure. I downloaded one photo from internet, made a brochure and sent it to his office. Then Miss Suma from his office sent the other photo. She said, replace that photo. He was quite young in that photo. She said, you replace this photo with this photo. Then I thought he has grown 23 more years or 24 more years. But today I realize has become 25 times smarter than what I've seen him. I started jotting down so many points. I had an ambitious agenda of summarizing it, but I doubt even Copilot will find it difficult to summarize it. Each and every point is taken like that. The summary is not possible. So on behalf of the University School of Management Studies, we profusely thank you, sir, for having accepted our invitation. It was a feast. We're all delighted to be here today to learn so many things, like Dr. Poonam Singh said. So hopefully we'll take the agenda forward. I also thank our Vice Chancellor, Professor B.J. Rao, who always sets the stage right, sometimes to the speaker also few points. It was such a coincidence. Not only today, sir, in most of our meetings, there is an overlap, what Professor B.J. Rao speaks and what the speaker has on his slides. So there is yeah, I understand. So Professor Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy already said that they didn't talk to each other when they were preparing for this lecture. Like I say, my repeated dialogue, though I also serve as the finance officer of the university. The financier is sitting here, our director IOE, who has sponsored this lecture series. Thank you so much, Professor Ghanshyam Krishna Garu, director IOE. I see the registrar who helps us in all administrative matters, facilitating this lecture series goes through. And I also thank some of the deans of other schools and faculty from other schools who could make it to this lecture. And I thank our dean, Professor Mary Jessica, and the faculty colleagues at the School of Management Studies, and especially Dr. Poonam Singh Madam, who has wonderfully done it today from this dais. My thanks are due to all PhD students, especially my group and the other group who have been running behind the scenes to make this event happen this way. Also, thank you all students for joining this. So we formally close this. Thank you.